Hi all, this is Simona Rich, and in this video I'm going to describe the second house of astrology as well as the meaning of different planets located in the second house. So the second house concerns the wealth of the native, whether he's going to be rich or poor. It concerns all the movable goods belonging to the native, whilst the movable property should be judged from the fourth house, as well as the native's safety and security. It also represents basic necessities. This house cusp, being on the fixed sign, indicates a person earning money from some skill. Fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. The cusp found in a mutable sign indicates a flexible person, able to make money through many talents and by employing various skills, usually without having in-depth knowledge in any particular field, but knowing a few things about everything. And mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. The second house tells you about your ability to handle money as well as your earning power. It can also show what projects or abilities may bring wealth. Some astrologers believe that this house also signifies people's values, what they hold dear. This house rules the neck when it comes to looking at the native's health from the chart. In horary astrology, it may signify common people. It's a succedent house, the one following the first angular house. Succedent houses hold less importance than the angular houses, though they are more important than cadent houses. The best planets to have in this house are either Jupiter or Venus, Jupiter being the best. Jupiter in this house makes one lucky in wealth. Venus also makes one lucky in wealth, but it influences one to buy lots of things, and if badly aspected, sometimes things that one doesn't need. Having in this house Sun or Mars will encourage the person to spend money. The best sign to have in this house is Taurus, as it's in harmony with wealth and luxury. Signs such as Sagittarius or Aries are not as fortunate, as the native will tend to have less money and may have the habit of spending more than necessary or spending on impulse. Here is the description of what different planets indicate being located in this house. The presence of the planet Pluto in houses sometimes makes people greedy or obsessed about the area of their lives, about that area of their lives signified by the house. And this definitely applies when Pluto is located in the second house. It means that money will be very important in the native's life, and he might be greedy for more and more of it. Since Pluto is a secretive planet, so to speak, the native with such a placement is likely to want to keep his financial affairs private. In childhood, the native may have suffered from lack of money, especially if Pluto is badly aspected by Mars, Saturn, or Uranus. This has created a deep wound, which the native tries to fill with receiving and spending money. Sometimes such a placement makes people hide their wealth from the eyes of others and never use it themselves. Obsessions influenced by Pluto in the second house don't end with money only. The native will consider his personal belongings, things that he likes, and even people that are close to him, and he will strive to always keep them within his sphere of influence. It's very difficult for him to let go of something that he considers his own. Pluto may also influence the native to get income from secretive, unusual, and dark sources, such as connected with the occult, politics, death, violence, crime, or sex. As Pluto is a planet of change, death, and rebirth, huge financial ups and downs is a big possibility, and the native won't be able to prevent or change such events in any way. They are there for the native to learn lessons rather than to resist them. This is how Pluto teaches, and if the person learns lessons associated with such catastrophes, he will be reborn to understand himself and the world better. Also, if the native learns the lesson, Pluto will cause the inflow of wealth into the person's life, and sometimes even more of it than the native had initially. The lessons to learn, however, are going to be tough, like learning to be detached from money, to never take money for granted, or to put it in its rightful place rather than making all life about attaining wealth. Now, Neptune in the second house. With Neptune in the second house, the native doesn't value money, and if he could, he would live without any of it. He has different understanding of how the society should function, and sometimes this involves distancing oneself from money altogether. The native just doesn't care about material things, and therefore the topic of money is not important to him. And even if he has money, he doesn't pay attention to how much of it there is or how much he spends. This makes it easier to sometimes deceive such people, especially if their Neptune is negatively aspected by Mercury or Mars. They are likely to spend most of their money on entertainment, including arts. Sometimes even basic needs are neglected to satisfy the craving for that which is creative and beautiful. A native may spend all his money in such pursuits and yet not be too much affected by the fact. Instead, he would start all over again in saving. Sometimes the native may create a philosophy of a cashless society or something similar, like giving up all that he owns or running a self-sustaining farm, especially if good planets like Sun and Jupiter aspect Neptune from the 10th house. Another thing that can happen with such a placement is that the native will undervalue his work and will tend to charge less than what his work is worth. For him, friendship and love is more important than material considerations, so he spends more money in spreading philosophies of equality or love than caring about bettering his financial situation. A negative possibility with Neptune, the planet of dreams and illusions, located in the second house, is that if it's close to Mars or forms a square with some negative planet from the 12th house, this can mean that the native makes money by selling drugs. Since a negative planet in the 12th house can mean imprisonment, it is wise for such people to give up all illegal activities. Natives with Neptune in the second house are likely to have artistic jobs, but they won't pay well. Street artists, for example, are likely to have this Neptune placement. A positive aspect from Jupiter, Sun, or another good planet might cause the native to get more income from such pursuits. Since Neptune is the planet of dreams and illusions, natives with its placement in the second house would do well to consult an expert when it comes to starting their own business or making some great financial choice. Neptune tends to blind an individual in whichever area it's located or to whatever planet it's connected. So with such a placement of Neptune being placed in the second house, there is a risk of making wrong business and financial choices. Since Neptune is a slow planet, it can bring procrastination into this house. Also, it's important to have savings for old age with such a placement. A native isn't likely to have steady income, but might do well in occupations such as the sales of antiques and paintings. Now, Uranus in the second house. Like Pluto, Uranus, which is the most unpredictable planet, in the second house causes sudden and unexpected changes in your financial well-being. For example, you might receive unexpected earnings, but also unexpected expenses. Financial change is likely to happen when you least expect it, like when everything is going according to how you want it to. However, this placement also gives you an ability to make money in the most unusual and ingenious ways. Also, even if Uranus causes you to lose money, it also gives you adaptability when it comes to finances and helps you to survive difficult times. It's very likely with such a placement that your financial situation often changes. Uranus may even cause you to lose everything, but it also gives you an ability to start all over again and achieve success yet once more. In general, you tend to use your knowledge in a way that causes you to earn money. Advertising or putting your innovative ideas into action in some way contributes to your financial well-being. You have an unusual approach to money and your belongings in general. You have a possibility to make money through technology, like designing gadgets, or your job having something to do with electricity or computers. You're likely to spend a lot of money on newest gadgets and technology in general. You will want to be the first one in owning some new gadget, and you will easily master new technology. You might even review newest gadgets or have a blog about technology, especially if there's some aspect of Uranus to the 9th house. If there is a bad aspect to the planet Mars, the native might be robbed or lose money in some violent way. In general, money isn't that important for people with Uranus in the 2nd house, and they're likely to spend it on things that are considered unusual by others. Even if the native is rich, he may live like a poor person or in some eccentric way, not paying attention to how much money he has. In general, there is a kind of detachment from finances. Now Saturn in the 2nd house. Although Saturn is considered a malefic planet, its presence in the 2nd house isn't necessarily bad. It depends in which sign we find this planet, as well as what aspects to other planets it has. For example, Saturn in Capricorn in the 2nd house makes one serious in making money and not prone to spending on emotional basis. Cold calculation and love affairs that Capricorn may give might be something unwanted, but cold calculation in money matters saves the native from making many financial mistakes. Other good signs for Saturn to be placed in the 2nd house are Scorpio, Libra, and Aquarius. If it also has aspects to good planets such as Jupiter, it even further improves the situation. Then Saturn can give almost permanent stability in financial matters. So here, of course, an ideal scenario is given, but I'm giving it to show that a negative planet doesn't necessarily mean that it will harm the person in some way. Saturn located in the 2nd house can mean that you grew up in a poor family and learned your parents' limiting ways of living and being. Instead of increasing your usefulness to the world in order to afford greater comforts, you were taught to decrease your expenses if you want to buy more things. With such a placement, you're likely to work hard and spend a lot of time in securing your financial safety. This can lead to financial gain, but it would be easier to achieve such success if firstly poverty beliefs are eliminated. Also, with such a placement, the native usually succeeds later in life, after years of hard work, but the wealth he earns will last. The native will be careful with his wealth and will not make unthoughtful decisions which put it at risk. He is likely to save a lot and may not even spend his hard-earned money to enjoy himself. Sometimes saving money is taken to extreme and the native turns into a stingy person. Sometimes the thoughts about money make the native feel depressed and life becomes sorrowful. It's important in such a case to start appreciating small things in life and to find joy in how you spend your free time or in other ways. Because what's the point of living if it's all about gathering wealth and worrying about possible future lack? Now Jupiter in the 2nd house. Jupiter in the 2nd house is the best placement there is. It's even better than Venus because Venus makes one likely to buy stuff that he doesn't need, whilst Jupiter influences the wealth to expand. Also, Jupiter is the planet of luck, so natives having it located in the 2nd house will tend to be simply lucky in this department of life. For example, they may be lazy, but they somehow end up earning money anyway. They just don't seem to ever face lack. If Jupiter is somehow connected to a malefic, one has to be careful in money matters. For example, if it's connected with Uranus, it might be that the native is doing something illegal, and this may result in him being caught, so such temptations must be fought. If Jupiter is also the ruling planet of your chart, which is the case if your ascendant is Sagittarius or Pisces, then it means that financial security is very important to you and you even base your sense of self on it. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, so if it's badly aspected, it may make you into a spender. But in general, this planet is so lucky that you're likely to regain your wealth despite of Jupiter being afflicted in some way. Also, the more you trust in yourself and the more energy and inspiration you put into your work, the quicker your wealth will grow with such a placement of Jupiter. Now Mars in the 2nd house. Mars in the 2nd house can either signify wealth or can mean a lot of spending. For example, if your 2nd house is in the sign of Sagittarius and you have Mars there as well, then you are likely to spend money impulsively. It's even worse if the planet Venus conjuncts Mars, because then you will spend money on things that you really don't need and your collection of those things will keep growing. However, the planet Mars can also provide lots of energy to this house, making you ambitious and able to work very hard. This would cause you to earn a lot of wealth. It's also likely that wealth is the most important thing in your life, and you don't feel adequate if you don't do well in finances. Mars is ambitious and intense. People with this placement are likely to hate working for others and will try to succeed in their own businesses. They see life as a sort of war, and when they win, they also spend money to celebrate their success. They're not likely to lend anything to anyone as they are possessive of what they own. They tend to be selfish when it comes to money and might spend it on impulse. Men with this placement consider their wealth to be part of them, and if they don't have enough, they may not even feel fully men. For women with this placement, financial security is very important, and they also are likely to be possessive. Sometimes natives just buy stuff to mark some event in their lives and may not even use that thing. Also, their desire to possess certain things can be great, and they would do almost anything in order to gain them. Since Mars is the planet of war, it might make the native interested in collecting things associated with the topic of war. Also, the native might be heavily invested in sports. If Mars is aspected by Pluto, Mercury, or Neptune, it might influence the native to acquire wealth in dishonest ways. Also, if in general the planet Mars is badly aspected, it could mean that during its transits, the native will lose some of his wealth. This especially applies if there are some bad aspects of Mars to the 8th house. If that's the case, one is strongly advised against borrowing any sort of money. To counteract the drawbacks of the planet Mars placed in the 2nd house, a native may choose to give some of his money to good causes on a regular basis and to channel the energy of aggression into sports or similar activities so that no impulse spending and rash financial decisions manifest. Sun in the 2nd house. The sun has a lot to do with your identity and how you see yourself, where you shine in the world. And if it's placed in the 2nd house, this means that material possessions are very important to you and you derive your sense of identity through how much you earn. Such a placement may indicate a wealthy father or one born in wealth and taking his material possessions for granted. If Sun is positively aspected, this financial ease should last a lifetime. If the Sun is located in the 2nd house, it means that you will never feel happy unless you can shine in the area of your finances, which means that gaining wealth is what will make you feel content and happy about yourself. Sun is the 3rd most beneficial planet in this house. The others are Jupiter and Venus. It definitely helps the native to attract wealth, and usually a lot of it. Sun, similarly to the planet Venus, encourages not only to gain wealth, but also to spend it. So if you look at your chart and follow Sun's aspects to the other planets and in which houses they're located, you can discover which areas of life will demand most of your wealth. Once you know this, you can take appropriate actions to prevent too much spending in those areas in case that creates financial problems. Having such a powerful luminary placed in the 2nd house makes the native derive their sense of who they are from their financial well-being. This is especially the case if you find more planets in the same house. It could even lead to extreme where the entire life revolves around bettering one's financial condition. If positive aspects of the Sun are developed, such as high morality, the Sun will help the native to gain even more wealth, and if they are ignored, the native may even be influenced to use immoral ways to obtain wealth. With such a placement, the native is likely to be the collector not only of things, but of people as well. He may see close relationships as possessions, and may suffer quite a big shock when some such person leaves his life. His sense of self-esteem, therefore, might be based not only on wealth, but on being in control of other people close to him. Venus in the 2nd house. I personally find Venus placed in the 2nd house to be the sign of collector. Sometimes it can be a collector of women in a man's chart. I see that very often. By that I mean that the man will have high self-esteem if he can conquer the hearts of many women, and will usually be possessive towards all of them, considering them their property. So he may even have a wife, but he will have girlfriends, and quite a lot of them. Or if he's not married, he will keep getting into relationships. But basically, he's getting into relationships not because of love, but because it builds his self-esteem if he can make someone fall in love with him. The probability of this being the case increases if there are Venus aspects or it somehow is connected to the 8th, 11th, or 5th house. So such men will not view women as individuals to be respected, but they will just see them as a proof that they are desirable and so forth. But just because a man has Venus in the 2nd house, that doesn't mean that this is what I described is definitely the case with that man. It's just there is a possibility. In general, having Venus in the 2nd house is one of the most positive placements there is. It indicates financial well-being and may bring great wealth. Extravagant spending is indicated as well. You love buying things you consider beautiful. Your spending habits are based on emotions to a great degree. If Venus has only positive aspects, this means that the person was born into a wealthy family. They might love wealth very much, not for money itself, but for what it can do for them. Also, the native derives his self-esteem through wealth, so he should be careful not to get involved into anything questionable in order to increase wealth, especially if Venus is badly aspected to some planet located in the 12th house. You may become wealthy as a result of marriage or relationships. Sometimes in a man's chart, this placement indicates that he will gain money through women. You are likely to enjoy luxury in many ways, and you love acquiring things that are beautiful. Men with this placement in their charts will pamper the women that they love with gifts. Sometimes gifts are given with some expectations attached. Sometimes money is spent to acquire friendships. Such a placement might indicate that a man spends money on women who love him for the money and not for who he is. It can indicate spending money on sexual favors. For women, this placement could indicate their absolute love of that which makes them look beautiful. Acquisition of wealth through arts and beauty is a great possibility with such a placement. The native will have a great taste of style and will be gifted in finding and acquiring beautiful objects. Since the native loves to be admired, sometimes he tries to win the appreciation of the public through the things that he owns. They become symbols of his status and who he is. So for example, he might buy expensive clothes just to impress the public. So it's not through his personality that he tries to impress the public, but through what he owns. In general, unless Venus is afflicted in a great way, this placement gives an easy life when it comes to finances. Mercury in the 2nd house. Mercury influences your approach to money to be mental and logical, which is a good thing. You will have many ideas of how to increase your wealth and are likely to make great investments. This is especially true if Mercury has good aspects to other planets. You have a talent to think of ways to make money. It's likely that you acquired this talent because of your interest in many things and reading of many books. You've absorbed lots of information and you can use it to make money. You are great with numbers and in occupations requiring the use of mathematics. If Mercury is badly aspected, it may make the native use his great intelligence to acquire wealth in illegal ways, such as through stealing. He is not likely to be caught due to his quick mind. Such people might become teachers, especially those who teach about how to make money. This is more likely to be the case if there is some aspect from Mercury to the planet located in the 9th house. And even if Mercury is badly aspected, the native will still be able to achieve financial success, though not through luck, but through much hard work. But if negative aspects are present, the native must be careful with anything to do with illegal systems. Stock trade is great for this placement, and the probability of gaining wealth through some sort of speculative profession is even greater if this planet is somehow aspected or connected to the 5th house of hobbies and pleasure. Such a planet placement also gives the native an ability to make money through communication or a written word. People with Mercury in the second house are likely to have great memories, and they see business challenges as an interesting game to win rather than something depressing. They aren't likely to get upset if they lose jobs. They are smart enough to think of ways to earn money between jobs. They're also likely to have several employments at the same time or several means of earning money in general. And finally, Moon in the second house. Moon is not a good placement to have in the second house, for it influences the finances to go up and down. At least an individual with such a placement can be sure that if he experiences financial losses, he will experience gains as well. This placement also indicates that the person is emotionally attached to his finances and that he derives his security through his financial well-being. The native is likely to have inherited this need for financial security from his mother. Sometimes the native is financially dependent on his mother or some mother figure in one's life. This could be even a girlfriend. It's just that native will perceive that woman to be motherly. This is especially dangerous for men, because if they don't learn to stand on their own 2 feet, they will remain passive characters unable to achieve anything significant. The moon, especially if in conjunction or aspecting Venus, may influence the native to spend money on items of luxury. A lot of money may be spent on home decor and family. Quite a lot of money can be spent on food and cooking in general. The native may have his own business and work from home. The occupation may be something to do with cooking. There might be monthly spending periods where the native exceeds his financial limit and then suffers until the debt is repaid, so this is going to be a regular pattern. Like the sun in the second house, the native with such a moon placement is likely to be overly attached to the people close to him and may see them as his own possessions. The native will feel equally emotionally attached towards the objects that he likes. It's very difficult to part with things that he likes, and if the moon has many negative aspects, it can create a person who hoards everything. So that's all for now. I hope that you enjoyed this video and learned a lot from this lesson. Thank you for watching and take care.